Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Tainted Warriors. I'm Mikey.
I'm Nicole.
And today we're kicking off our episode with the question of the day.
Which is, if you could go back to any point in history, where would you go? I had two different choices, but I don't remember what they were. Oh, so the first one was I kind of really want to go to the day that JFK was assassinated, and I'd like to follow Lee Harvey Oswald around to see if he actually did the assassination or if he really was just fucking working and then got, what do they call that, like blindsided by CIA and shit. Like, that'd be kind of cool. Prove whether or not, like, that's a lie. And then the other one would be, obviously, fucking Roswell, New Mexico in 1947. I want to be where the UFO is going to crash before it actually crashes so I can literally watch it happen and run away real quick with the most evidence I can grab before the military comes.
Love it. I do. I chose either. There was two, just because, I couldn't really decide. I either wanted to go back to the 70s and just experience the different type of, like love, the free love. I feel like, obviously that's all me. And, just that different type of life. And then I really wanted to throw it up. And I was like, all right, if I could go anywhere in history, I want to go all the way back to, like, the period times. And then when I thought about it a little bit more after me and you had the discussion last night and we were talking, and I think I did decide, like, if I was going to go back then, I want to go to, like, the Salem witch trial time. So I would definitely, I want to be involved. I want to see, like, because maybe then if I went back, maybe then I could see if they really did, like, throw them in the water to be like, hey,
Right.
if you swim, don't, and maybe I could have saved somebody's life.
That would be really
and been
cool.
like, hey, it's called swimming.
Right? Like,
They'd
I'll show you all how to do it.
They'd kill me. They'd be like, that's a witch.
I'll pop out of your suitcase real quick and be like, no, he's legit. Like,
It's real. We're not witches. We're just from the future.
and be like, sorcery, and throw us both in.
Yeah.
We'll be like, okay, well, I'm swimming. So.
It lasted
Swim
5
away.
minutes. It lasted 5 minutes in that time period. So, this episode is
Call it the true Conjurings.
very, very good, We had this idea, well, Nicole had the idea last week. She said, hey, with the new Conjuring movie coming out, do you want to cover that? And me being me, misunderstood. And I was like, sure, we're going to cover the Conjuring. I do my research. I start writing everything up that I can about one. I'm getting all these good information and details. And then I send the message to her of, hey, how are we doing this? Like, I have all this information about one. And she says back to me, wait, are we doing all three? I thought we were just going to look into number 3. And I was like, well, I already messed up because I have all this information on one, so.
Couldn't let it go to waste.
Right, so what we're going to do is I have, like, the synopsis of the first film. I have a couple really good, interesting facts. I looked into it more of, like, I wanted to get a little bit deeper into the real, like, story of it, and like
also what I did.
Things that I don't think you'd pick up if you just saw the movie.
Right.
Good way to put it, I guess. So from the first one, it is just called The Conjuring, right?
Yeah.
I did write down the synopsis for it, so I am gonna read that real quick. Don't mind me. It does. In 1970, paranormal investigators and demonologists Ed and Lorraine Warren are summoned to the home of Caroline and Roger Perron. The Perrons and their 5 daughters have recently moved into a secluded farmhouse where a supernatural presence has made itself known. Throughout, the manifestations are relatively benign at first. Events soon escalate in horrifying fashion, especially after the Warrens discover the house's macabre history. I was so afraid of macabre. Like, I don't know why. I was like, I'm going to get that word wrong, and I tripped over every other word but that one.
It's okay.
Proud. So, quick rundown of what I just tried to say there. family finds a house that is the Perron family that consists of Roger Perron, the father, Caroline Perron, the mother, and then their 5 daughters, Andrea, Nancy, Christine, Cynthia, and April. The Perron family lived in the house for about 10 years altogether. They bought, the house consisted of a farmhouse. There was 200 properties, or 200 acres worth of land. They bought that in the winter of 1970. And it didn't state, like, how much they did purchase it for back then. I'm not gonna lie, I was trying to look for that. Let's get into what was going on at this, unheard of, crazy ass place.
These are crazy stories. Like, the movies themselves are honestly good. I like them. I'm a horror fan. But, like, to know that it's literally based on a true story and, like, actually look into what happened and know that was, legit what happened.
Like, the real farmhouse is located in Harrisville, Rhode Island, and the barn is still there to this day. Like, you can go there, visit it. Well, actually, I don't know if you can visit it. Don't listen to me.
Please don't try to visit without looking into it first. Please don't get arrested because Mikey said to go visit.
True. Thank you.
Might be Area 51.
You might end up getting in trouble. So, like I said, what led into the house already had a little bit of things. The family started to notice some things, paranormal activities that were going on at the house. So they end up contacting Ed and Lorraine Warren. And Ed and Lorraine Warren are the paranormal investigators that end up figuring out that the spirit of Bathsheba Sherman is the spirit that was haunting the home. And it is figured out when Caroline, the Perron's family mother, told them that she was lying on the couch a few years prior and that she felt a sharp pain in her calf and that her muscle began to spasm. And once she went to go and look, I don't know if she was wearing pants, but maybe she had to, like, roll up her pants. Like, she did realize there was a pool of blood forming. And when she pulls up her pant leg or looks down at her leg and realizes that she has been pricked, or what she has is been noted that was perfectly concentric circles, is what she found. Which looked like she was stabbed with a very large needle, in which the family didn't know, like, that this was such a detailed story that got Ed and Lorraine to know exactly who was haunting the house. They knew it was Bathsheba Sherman. How did they know it was Bathsheba Sherman? Let me tell you. Well, let me tell you with a little bit of backstory. We're going to go into who she was and what was going on. Born in Rhode Island in 1982 as Bathsheba Thaler. She ends up marrying a local Rhode Islander, Judson Sherman, 1 year her senior. Can't even lie, there's a question mark there. Not sure if that meant he's 1 year older.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Didn't know what that meant, so I was like, okay. In Thompson, Connecticut, on March 10th, 1844. She was a typical housewife, as her husband was a farmer on their own land. Age 37, she is on record known to have one son in March of 1849. And I'll explain that a little bit, too. Now, believed by local townspeople to have been a witch, she actually ended up sacrificing a small child to the devil by taking a large sewing needle to the infant's head, to the back of the skull.
Oh.
Now, though, due to insufficient evidence, a court found that she was innocent of any wrongdoing. So I wasn't too sure on how everybody knew that this happened and that she did it. But how did a court... Now, mind you, though, we're also talking in 1840-something.
There's no
So,
fingerprints
right,
or
there's
anything.
no, we don't know what could have really have happened, but it is led to believe that, yes, this is what she did. And which is why she is now kind of like...
Well, they thought she was a witch, right? So
Yes.
probably why they threw the blame at her.
Right.
Automatically.
And they, it is, no matter what, it is very weird taking care of any child once it passes away. If the child passes away and then they find out that due to a large needle being to the back of your skull, come on, that's kind of weird. She passes away on May 25th, 1885, 4 years after her husband passed in 1881. Folklore and internet tales do make her death seem like it was something of, out of nowhere or crazy, like that she turned to stone after she died, or that she just, completely, incinerated in the moment, but it is led to believe, no, she did just regularly pass away. Her gravestone is actually located in a historic cemetery across the street from the fire station and Rotary in downtown Harrisville, Rhode Island. So that I do believe, even though it does say historic, so you might have to, I don't know how you could get to it, but you could, I guess, maybe go see it.
You can visit a lot of historical places. A lot of them are public, but with COVID being still weird right now, I would always check it out.
Yes, always try to make sure that...
make sure you don't have to wear a mask.
Yes.
All that stuff.
I just thought it'd be really, that was really cool. She's even buried right in that town, where everything happened.
I'd love to see it.
There is a public internet family tree that is that was shown from around their time that you could look up, and it does show that she had 3 other children. One was named Julia, and it had 1884. There was Edward of 1847 and George of 1853. But there are no other records of these children besides this one family tree, and it is kind of led to believe that by the time the next census came around, I guess they were doing censuses back then too.
Yeah.
That all 3 children were passed. It said that, by the age of none of them made it to the age of 7.
You want to say that's weird, but it's also
it's almost like, did she do something to those 3 children,
Right. Is this a fucking weird ass coincidence? Or
was that
there
a
was
lie?
Disease, let's be real. There was disease.
Right.
Medical shit wasn't what it is now.
And, sudden infant death syndrome, and there are
crazy,
very likely chances that it could have been a natural. But like I said, though, who knows if these were even true? Like I said, there's only, I don't think they found birth certificates for these 3 children. Like I said, it's just this one internet family tree. Maybe there is more things out there, but from what I could find, it did say there was a little bit of conflict in both stories. So I was actually debating on if I wanted to mention her having those 3, but because I found 2 stories that stated that she had 3, but then they kind of disappeared, I was like, all right, I have to put that in there.
Right.
Especially due to what the townspeople have believed she did.
Right. It could have been a pattern.
Right. It's kind of scary. And then, maybe her one son was too old at the time, which was why he could have been the only one to have survived. You know what I mean?
Right.
I'm not sure. I don't know when she started practicing witchcraft either. She could have, like I said, she could have started after her son was 3. I don't know how it works.
We didn't study witchcraft.
Right. I was trying not to find all that crazy.
He's a little scared of that kind of stuff. That's more stuff I would look into. So I'll see if I can find some stuff.
Let's talk about what happened after they bought the house. The farmhouse was bought after the Perron family lived there. They lived there for about a decade. Like I said, they sold it in about, I think I said in June of 1980, selling it to a man who was claimed to have went in. He was going to redo the whole house, kind of fix it all up. He is said to have left in the middle of the night without grabbing any of his tools, no clothes, no nothing. It was to have never set foot again into that house. The person after him was also stated to was going to build it and or going to rebuild and fix everything up. He was said to have left everything and never to return. But the people that live there now, or that contain it now, have little experience, they did claim. They said that there were, like, some noises or some, like, something, just nothing as intense as what was being claimed or stated as in the movie was being stated.
Do you believe the movies exaggerate stuff? But,
I mean, yeah, they have to sell. Right, they got to. And then I do have I don't know, maybe just some little tidbits that I thought were a little bit interesting, like knowing that the Perrons did claim that the Warrens did make the ghost worse, which, when I did speak to Nicole about that last night, she did make sense of it being that, well, yeah, once you're trying to get it to go, or, when you're trying to...
When you confront something, it often leads to increased, anger and acting out versus, kind of ignoring it.
Right, instead of it just, calming down and being done. So they did. So it does make sense that happened. The hide and clap game. We all know that was probably one of the craziest scenes in a movie at that time. That was worse in person than what the movie claimed it out to be. That they said that it was nothing not that it was nothing like what the movie stated, but that it was worse. It was scarier. It was, way more intense than what it was. And then after it does state that after everything that the film showed, that the Warrens did do, it is stated that Roger Perron did kick out the Warrens. He did kick the Warrens out, concerned for his wife's mental stability. So, he was kind of starting to get nervous, thinking that they might be doing more harm than help, and that wouldn't have been too good. And just, I have down here again that the parents couldn't afford to just up and leave, so they actually stayed there for, it does say for almost a decade after the Warrens left. And I can break this down a little bit more because it does sound a little confusing. When it said that they bought the house, I was thinking about it because I was like, how could they have told that one story that I mentioned previous with the sewing needle and when she got stabbed, because it claimed that it happened 4 years ago. And I was like, well, how could it have happened 4 years ago when she's telling the Warrens? But it says that they only lived in the house for 10. And that they end up staying after the Warrens left. They stayed for almost a decade. Stay with me, people. So, if they lived there for 4 years, they called the Warrens in by the 4th year, and now, everything happened. Now they kicked the Warrens out, and they still had to live in the house. They stayed in the house for another 6 years. I could consider that being almost a decade. I don't, So I was really confused by it. I didn't want people to be like, hey, you're throwing out so many, times. Because if you think about every story that I told, it would seem like it had to be in a consistent of 14 years. But it's not. It only happened between 1970 to 1980. I did want to state that. And if there are any people out there that, don't believe me, or believe the Warrens are part of this. This next person is probably the person that you probably love this guy, or probably have already heard of him.
Breaking my heart.
I'm sorry. His name is Steven Novella, and we have to get into him. Oh, hold on. Because I wanted to say
the
this.
Band-Aid off already.
No, because I wanted to say this first, that Ed and Lorraine Warren were paranormal experts in the United States. So their most famous case did include the Amityville house, which we all know to be the Amityville Horror.
Yeah,
very big movie. I mean, but a big case. Very well known, like you just said. the couple also founded the New England Society for Psychics Research. Okay? So I did want to say that they did make this group, you know, like they did find this. So they had enough.
It's a legit group, I think. So
Huh?
I'm pretty sure that's still a legit group. So.
See, so they founded this really, you know, big group. So I feel like in order for them to have found this group, there had to have been something, some legitimacy. You know, like I don't think that they just BS'd every single person and, you know, end up getting people. But
I love Lorraine Warren, so
I do believe in them. I do, I have to say. But now there is Steven Novella. Let's go right back on into him. Maybe I'll have
opposition.
Yes. He is president of New England's Skeptical Society.
Polar
Come on.
opposites.
Yeah, now you kind of already see where I'm going right there, right? If you're already, like, I feel this way with what I'm going to say next. With that title that you are, I don't believe you should be able to claim the next statements that he is about to say. The Warrens are good at telling ghost stories. This is in quotation marks. The Warrens are good at telling ghost stories. You could do a lot of movies based on the stories they have spun. But there's absolutely no reason to believe there's any legitimacy to their stories. End quote. Question. Steve, come here. Let's get a little closer here. You're already a skeptic. You already don't believe. You expect me to stop believing because you don't believe in anything that they have said? Make me believe you then.
Right.
I'm going to be a skeptic to you and say, where's your proof? Show me the person. Show me what really made the guy at the Amityville house go crazy. Show me what really stabbed Carolyn Perron in her leg that night while she was sitting on the couch. If you have everything that could prove all of these, be on your side, buddy. But don't really think you can.
Right, I'm with you because
Like I said, just already being a skeptic. You're the president too. You're not just a member. You're the president of this. And you want, make me believe it then.
He's probably the one that was like, UFOs aren't real until the day before the Pentagon was like, no, this was a legit UFO.
Right. Oh, he probably
and then it's still like, no,
saying
that's
that.
the only one that exists.
Right. There's only one.
They keep photographing the same one over and over.
I'm just I'm kind of like, how can you make me believe it? And you can't, because all you can say is that you've just encountered them and that there's nothing to it. I mean, with the things that I've read on them, I mean, I feel like I'm kind of a believer. I do believe that the Perron family that is real, that is out there to this day, I do believe that they believe in them. You know, all the families that I feel like you're trying to take away their voice or their story from and discredit them is so wrong. In a way, you weren't there. So I don't believe that you should be able to fully say, and just like I wasn't there. So I guess in my own opinion, yes, we're doing this podcast and we're saying that we do believe it, but I'm not trying to shove it down anybody's face. You know what I mean? I'm not like, oh, you know, here, you need to believe this, and this. No, I'm just trying to say that, hey, these are the facts, or, you know, these are what was brought up.
We're basically saying, here's our opinion, here's what we believe, but we want you to have your open mind and form your own opinion, preferably in line with mine. Not gonna lie to you, I'd like to have conversations with people about this crazy shit.
Me too.
But,
Or, even, I guess, even if you don't believe, like I just said, make me believe it then. Show me that, show me the proof to get me to not believe. Because obviously I've been shown enough proof to get me to believe it. You know?
Right.
You I guess the best way to put it would be if you were to tell me today, you don't like eating pizza. You know, I'd be like, but I do though. You know,
right.
But you just kept telling me no, you don't. No, but I do though.
Right.
Yes, I do believe that after a while you could convince me if you told me every single day.
Right.
But why don't you give me a second to tell you why I think I do like pizza then?
Right.
You know, that's all I'm trying to say here. Is let's give everybody the benefit of the doubt.
I think for me it's hard because a lot of times these skeptics are full-on skeptics that don't believe any ghost stories are real ever, and I've personally had my own experiences with ghosts, so to say that there's no ghosts anywhere ever...
Foreshadow. Sorry. Didn't mean to cut you off, but yes, that is a foreshadow right there. We have stories.
We have our own stories, so to have someone say that there's no spiritual or supernatural realm whatsoever is literally kind of like spitting in our faces. Like, so then what did we experience our entire lives? Like,
right. I mean, we just made it up.
Like, I do believe some people make things up, but I don't believe everyone is. And
I'm not making money off of it, off of my little stories. You know, so it's like, I don't really feel like I have too much to...
I feel like a lot of these people, these families, didn't necessarily make money themselves either, which I guess can kind of lead into the second part of our fucking podcast, where I take you into the Conjuring 2, which is also known as the Enfield Haunting. And I feel like I took my notes a little differently than Mikey, but let's go.
Oh, yeah.
I don't have a synopsis for you. Basically, it was the Hodgson's family. It was in Brimsdown, Enfield, London. The kids, I think the oldest kid was like 13 or 14. That was Margaret. It primarily centered around her sister Janet. I think she was like 11 when it all started. And then they had two younger brothers that were like 10 and 8, somewhere around there. So it started in 1977 with Janet, the youngest daughter, the 11-year-old, telling her mom, Peggy, that her brother's beds were like shaking and wobbling. And of course, you know, moms don't believe it. They're like, you know, go play, go do something, get away from me. But the next night, Peggy was downstairs and she was hearing noises coming from upstairs, like in the kids' room, and they were supposed to be sleeping. So she goes up there to yell at them to go to sleep. And the dresser actually, like, it does move across the floor and, like, come at her. And she was like, okay, but nobody moved it. And then when she tried to move it, she actually couldn't. Which, if you watch the movie, that actually did happen. Like, the dresser did move. So, like, I thought it was cool that they stuck to that. But they had, like, anywhere from 17 to 30 witnesses, depending on, like, I kept seeing different things, but it was always 17 or 30. But 17 to 30 different witnesses of the paranormal shit that was happening in the house, including their neighbor Vic and his wife, which was actually featured in the movie as ones that were helping them. They had John and Sylvia Burke, which was Peggy's brother and, like, sister-in-law. And I guess they lived, like, around the corner, so they got to witness some shit. And then they had two police officers, which they actually did show that in the movie also. The two police officers did sign sworn affidavits of what they saw, which the female officers, like, they confirmed hearing the taps in the walls, and then they said it would go silent, and then they would hear the taps again, and they couldn't figure out where they were coming from, or, like, who was making them, or whatever. And then at one point, like, the oldest son, I think his name was Johnny, yeah, he points at a chair, and all of a sudden the chair fucking just floats like a ½ inch off the ground and, like, goes across the floor all on its own, like, 4 to 5 feet. And they actually signed, like, affidavits of that.
That's crazy.
Right? Like, people were seeing furniture getting flipped over and going flying through the air that nobody was touching. They claim that Janet actually levitated a couple of times, which that's... I mean, this obviously, like we were talking about, there's always skeptics, so that's like 50-50 on whether or not, you know, that actually took place. And, like, I have seen pictures of it where they claim she was levitating, and it does look like she could just be jumping, but at the same time, I've never personally seen anyone levitate, so I don't know what that looks like either.
Honestly,
like,
you're right. I've never seen it, so it could have...
I don't think it's gonna look like in the movies when they do stiff as a feather, light as a board. I gotta imagine it would look like some kind of human motion, like...
Right.
But, yeah.
I don't know.
Vic was the one that actually called the police one night because Peggy and her kids ran over for help, just like in the movie, because they heard, like... It was a little different in the movie, because in the movie they saw the dresser, but I think it was the tapping that sent him over to his house, and... He ends up going over, he couldn't figure it out, so he was the one that called the police, and then obviously they weren't any help either. But the police did, like, they actually did checks to make sure there were no wires that could be doing anything. They made sure no one else was in the house. Like, they even took a marble and put it on the floor to make sure that didn't roll away so that, like, they knew the floor was level and not causing any tricks or anything. Like, it was, they actually did tests. And they're like, we don't know what it is. We can't help you. No law is being broken right now. So, basically, you're SOL. So, eventually... Morris Gross, he actually gets called in to come investigate because he's basically like a paranormal investigator. He would ask the spirit like yes or no questions. He'd be like, "Are you here to torment this family?" Not tap once for yes and like two for no, and like.
Aren't you not supposed to do that though?
I feel like you can because I mean. Paranormal investigators do try to contact ghosts, but I think the key and why we screwed up is because we never did, like, prayers of protections. That's a key thing when you're gonna fuck with ghosts. Like, you have to have some kind of protection. And they never show that to you in movies. But,
right.
like, you do see Ed and Lorraine, they always have their crosses.
Yeah, I will
like,
say that is a very...
Lorraine's got her rosary in her hand.
Very good, like, thing to just bring out there. If you are going to play with them, just look up, not only look up what to do it, but look up how to be safe, how to just, you know.
The Ouija board literally, I believe, comes with a prayer of protection. So actually, guys, I can check this for you because there's a Ouija board right here. If I can open it. Oh, maybe it doesn't. They're just like, oh, wait. Oh, no.
No.
It actually doesn't come with a prayer of protection. But it does say don't forget to say goodbye when you're done, which is also key because if you don't say goodbye, you leave the door open for them to come in.
Straight.
Which, of course, anybody that's just playing with a Ouija board, like children, they don't know that. And in The Conjuring, too, like, that is actually something that happened. The girls did play with an actual Ouija board prior to, like, the main activity beginning to take place.
Like, in real life?
Yeah.
Or,
in the movie, Janet played with her friend, I believe. But in real life, apparently, I think it was Janet and her sister Margaret actually did play with a Ouija board. Because I looked at that and I was like, are you kidding me? Like, that's why you're screwed. Like, and I'm not going to lie to you. I did watch, 1980 interview with Janet and Margaret, and it is hard. Like, it does look like they kind of had attitudes of, like, this is a joke almost. But at the same time, I also don't know what the fuck I would be doing. Because I smile in the most awkward situations, too. So I can't say that that means they're lying. But, I mean, it's just weird. So, like, yeah, he would ask Maurice Gross would ask the yes or no questions. And he would actually get, like, taps to answer. And, like, that was crazy, because it's like, yeah, you're basically communicating with him right now. There was one time he asked the spirit to move a lamp. He asked it 3 different times, and all 3 times the lamp moved across the room. He was, at one point when the lamp moved, I think something happened, and he ended up, like, going and holding the bedroom door, right? I think he was trying to make sure there's no, like, draft or anything weird. And a fucking slipper goes flying at him. Like, he would record, like, all the interviews and whatnot. So, like, he actually recorded the spirit barking and whistling and, like, saying his name and all of that shit. So that's really fucking weird to listen to because you can actually find that and listen to it.
Isn't that what they're playing at the end of the movie, too? Didn't we...
Last night?
Was that last night, or was that in 2?
That was in the credits of the one we watched last night. It's not really a spoiler, it was in the credits, but that is, like, a common thing, I believe, with demonic possession, is, like, that's one of the things, like, they growl. Because you're a fucking demon, like, you're gonna growl. But, like, these growls aren't, like, I can growl. I'm not gonna lie. I have a really good growl. It's probably a skill at this point, but
I can't, like,
this is inhumane.
Unnatural.
This is like a lion fucking mixed with a werewolf.
Not coming from your chest, but deep from your chest.
Right.
You know, like, very scary growl.
And then the whistling too, like that, like, it's just creepy. And I actually like that the whistling happened in real life because it was really creepy in the movie. The spirit was walking up the stairs whistling this old man.
Oh my god.
And it always creeped me out.
Oh my god.
I'm just like, okay, like, you're just trying to fuck with me, but no. He was actually whistling, like, come here so I can growl at you. Like,
No, I'm good where I am.
But yeah, so they eventually, of course, they get the spirit talking and they ask him who he is. And I think it around like 10 different voices end up coming from Janet of different fucking spirits. There were at least 3 like prominent ones, one of which was Bill Wilkins, who is the spirit featured in the movie. And they didn't believe it in the interview when they were speaking with him because he's like, yeah, I died in that chair in the corner. He basically was like, I fell asleep and died in that chair. Which is a key fucking point of the movie, that he died of a brain hemorrhage when he fell asleep in the chair. And that's actually something in real life that supposedly they confirmed with his son Terry did happen. Like, he did live and die in that house before Janet ever fucking made his voice. Which, how would an 11-year-old know that? Like, I know it was the 80s or the 70s, so people talk more. There's a small chance there was talk in the neighborhood and she found out. But then you got his voice and, like, I don't know. It's just really weird.
And, like, once again, though, what would be her purpose of, like, faking it, though? You know, like, why? I don't know. It's hard for me to believe that an 11-year-old girl sat at home and said, you want to know what's going to be so cool? You want to know what's going to make the whole world notice me? This right here.
And to be smart enough to trick the 2 police officers into fucking thinking you're legit. Also,
and she's scaring her family, so it's not like her whole family's in on it. You know what I mean? Like, she's really scaring the family too. So it's just her son. No, I don't.
She did admit, or like I don't know if she admitted it or if they caught it or both, but she did exaggerate some things. Which they said that it was likely because she was a middle child in a working family, and once she started getting attention for things, she basically didn't want it to go away.
I probably would have done the same shit. I mean, not lie, but like you just said, I'm a middle child. So I would have been like, whoa, people are actually paying attention to me. I don't want it to end, so I want it to stay around. Like,
which they actually do show that in the movie, too, which is kind of cool. They show her in the kitchen, like, they're basically shit's being thrown around, and, you know, it's supposed to be an episode, and then she, like, looks, like, she bends the spoon in half and, like, looks straight at the camera. And, like, realizes she's caught, and then that's kind of when, like, the skeptics are winning in the movie.
Right.
Because they're like, she faked that. Like, she literally just did this shit.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I thought it was kind of cool, because I think what I read actually mentioned that, like, she did actually bend a spoon and was doing, like, shit in the kitchen and, like...
Tried to...
Right, that's how she got caught, because it was in the kitchen. Like, which is crazy. Like, I loved it. I love when they put in the details like that.
Right. Like, that is really cool to think that, like, that really did happen. And but it's even cooler to think that, like, okay, yeah, she might have faked it a little bit, but there are things before that she didn't fake. And I'm pretty sure you're about to read more things that happened after she was caught in that moment, right?
Yeah, I don't know how you describe it, but I have more shit that relates to it, I guess. Like... Honestly, from what I was discovering in my research, which I already told Mikey this, but it seems like in the movies, a lot of the stuff with Ed and Lorraine Warren is what's exaggerated. Which obviously...
It broke her heart.
It did. I am so broken right now, but, like, because for this one in particular, Ed and Lorraine were not invited, and they only showed up for one day. And supposedly Ed told somebody that they could make a lot of money off the story. But I still love them. I don't care. Like, to me, it's like, they already had someone helping them out anyway. Like, it's fine. I don't know.
I mean, I can look...
I don't know why they left. I don't know what... They were, honestly, like, they were supposed to be, like, people of the church also. Like, they're not supposed to, I believe. Maybe I'm wrong. But I believe when they went into these, like, these situations, they were basically trying to see is someone possessed. Like, do they need an exorcism? And to do all that, you have to get approval through the church. So maybe it was a situation where they didn't think they would be able to get that kind of approval. Saw that this Maurice Gross guy was already working magic, and, like, maybe just stepped back. That's my optimistic hope. Because I just don't want to, like, I don't want to believe that they didn't help people. I think it's... I don't know about Ed. I honestly... He was already passed by the time I really got into them. But I love Lorraine, and I truly believe that she had some kind of ability. Whether or not it was exaggerated, I don't know. I never got the fucking honor of meeting her. But, okay. Back to the story, because I'm salty here. But, so Janet, when I was actually watching this and she was doing the different voices, like I said, it was a little weird, like, how she was acting. But her mouth didn't move at all when these other voices come. And she said that when the spirit talked, it felt like he was just kind of grabbing the back of her neck and, like, using her as a puppet. And, I mean, yes, you think, okay, maybe she's a ventriloquist. But they supposedly did testing somehow for that and, like, confirmed that she had no ventriloquism skills. And Maurice Grosse said that if she were faking it, that with the amount of time that she spent doing the voices, that it would have caused permanent damage to her vocal cords. And that when they actually did an analysis of the speech, like the vocal cords or whatever, they found that the sound was coming from a forced vocal fold above the larynx that he said only really gets used when you've lost your voice. And that makes that, like, gruffly sound. I wonder if mine's in action right now. My voice feels really low right now. But it basically gives you that gruffy kind of sound.
Right.
So in this case, with The Conjuring 2, the activity did stop after about 18 months. According to Janet, there was a visit from a priest around that time, so she thinks that may have actually kind of ceased the activity. It did kind of continue, but it wasn't anything that they couldn't deal with. It wasn't like, oh my god, this is going to kill me or hurt my family. It's just like, alright, so sometimes he puts the remote in the chair in the corner, which you gotta go looking for it, but...
You gotta get up.
Right.
I'm so pissed.
Talk about freaking privilege. Like, we're just like, don't put my remote. Like, oh, America. Oops. We're great. As far as profit, there was, I believe it was the guy that was working with Maurice Grosse. He wrote a book regarding the experience. The family did eventually make $2,000 in profit because of that book, but that was it. They didn't benefit otherwise financially. So it's not like they made killer money off of this. And if you want to be like, oh, they're making movies now, okay, most of these people are dead now. Like,
yeah.
Like, the oldest brother, Johnny, he died 4 years later when he was 14 of cancer. Janet, at 19, she ended up leaving home, getting married. Her son died when he was 18 years old in his sleep. She died recently, well, I want to say, I don't remember, sometime in the 2000s at the age of 56, because she also had cancer. Peggy Hodgson, she actually lived in the home with the youngest son, Billy, until she died in 2003. And I wasn't able to find anything to confirm this, but rumor has it that she died in the same corner as Bill Wilkins, the spirit that was haunting them, like in the same chair. So
crazy if it's true.
I was really trying to find like everything just pops up with this stupid movie. I love the movie, but everything pops up with the movie now because y'all Google the movie too much and don't care about the real shit.
Start Googling Tainted Warriors.
Yeah. Hey. And then the only thing I really have about after she died, there was a family. The mom was Claire Bennett. She had 4 sons that she moved in with. They always felt as if someone was watching them. The children would wake up and hear voices downstairs when obviously no one was downstairs. But they did end up moving out the day after her 15-year-old son saw a man enter his room. That obviously
I would be
wasn't
out.
there. Right. So, I mean, if you take away, like, the crazy shit that happens with Ed and Lorraine, that movie did stay pretty true to the real facts. The other crazy thing I didn't write down, though, is there was one time in the movie, there were a couple times you found Janet's body in these odd places, like twisted and contorted. And there was one time that Peggy's brother and wife, they actually found her on top of a radio. And, like, her arms and legs were all outstretched. It was just so freaking odd. Like, no one would ever intentionally put themselves like that.
Right.
Maybe if you wanted attention, but, like, it looked so uncomfortable and she looked so sturdy.
Right.
Because I saw a picture. I'm like, it almost looked like she just had one knee on this radio and the rest of her was, like, fucking gonna fly through the air or some shit. It was ridiculous.
That's crazy.
Right. But it's still one of my favorite movies. We watched it before we went to see number 3 last night.
Yeah. Which was a really good movie.
Number 3.
Are we on number 3 now?
Yeah.
All right. So, Mikey, once again, being Mikey, only got one thing about this movie, and that would be the synopsis.
It's what I don't know.
For The Conjuring 3, subtitle, quote title, whatever, The Devil Made Me Do It. Synopsis. Ed and Lorraine Warren take one of the most sensational cases of their careers after a cop stumbles upon a dazed and bloodied young man walking down the road. Accused of murder, the suspect claims demonic possession as his defense, forcing the Warrens into a supernatural inquiry unlike anything they've seen before.
Oh.
With that being said, I think that was a very good way of putting it, but I think it didn't touch up on there was more, I feel, that happened throughout the movie than just that statement. You know what I mean? Like when you read that, I do feel like it pretty much like states them just being in a courtroom the whole time. I almost get like the haunting of Emily.
The exorcism of Emily.
Yes, like that type of feel. Where like, oh great, they're gonna be just sitting in a courtroom and they're just gonna not at all what this movie is.
It was actually a pretty good movie.
I loved it.
Once again, did exaggerate a lot of the stuff with Ed and Lorraine. Like it kind of connected things that really weren't connected. Like the different things. I don't want to spoil too much because obviously it's a new movie, so right. I don't want to like say too much. But as far as you know, like some of the things they were looking into actually had nothing to do with like fucking Arne Johnson, the main person. Like,
right.
It just was for entertainment purposes.
Yes.
So, but I still love them because obviously if you have someone who's like a legit psychic, you're gonna fucking amp them up in a movie because that's legit.
I mean, like, right? Like of course, and it's
like putting Elon Musk in a fucking movie and being like not sending him to Jupiter. Like,
right. It's
he
like
goes to Mars. You send him farther.
It's a movie, so of course there's gonna be dramatics and.
To think that this shit's not real and they didn't have a room full of actually haunted objects is insane. Like. Anyway, so...
Wait, do they not really have a room full of haunted objects?
No, that's what I'm saying. Like, people that think that... If you don't think that they're legit, then you think they just have a room of random shit that they've stolen from people.
I'm like, wait, I thought you were just, like, literally telling me that you found that out. I was like, wait, I really love the thought of them having that room of darkness or whatever.
They're both dead now, so I don't even know what happened. I don't know whose control it's under now.
Hopefully it's their daughters.
I don't think it's her. I think it went to, like, a church or something. I looked it up one time, but I don't remember.
We're gonna have to find where it went.
I know it's supposed to still get blessed regularly, though. Like, it's like Ed had a plan for it, I believe.
Right.
No. It was February 1981. Arne Johnson stabbed Alan Bono, or Bono, B-O-N-O. I'm going to say Bono, because isn't Bono you too? Bono?
Yeah, I think so.
Sonny Bono, Bono. I guess neither way.
Bono.
Alan Bono, whatever I'm going to call him at that moment. He stabbed him over 20 times, with 5 of those being considered tremendous wounds to the chest, and one actually stretched from his stomach to the base of his heart.
Oh my god.
And this was after they had been drinking and arguing. It was the first murder in Brookfield, Connecticut history. They've been around, I think, 190, 195 years, somewhere around there. And he's like, yep, I'm going to be the first murderer.
I want to make history.
Literally, like...
Well, I don't think he really wanted to.
No.
Well, let's just
He
say that.
actually was, like, a really good person, never been in trouble, like, never had anything that would make you think he would be a murderer. Like, He was a good kid. So, in the beginning, he worked for a tree service, and his girlfriend, Debbie Glitzel, worked for Alan Bono at the Brookfield Dog Kennel. And, side note, Bono actually lived in the apartment above the kennel as well. That's important for later. When Debbie's little brother, David Glitzel, became possessed, Arne moved in with them to basically, help out in any way he could. Like,
right.
I'm pretty sure he loved Debbie, so
he would do anything he could to
and he
lighten the load a little bit.
I don't know if it was just I don't know if it was true or not, but it seemed like he actually really liked her little brother also. Like,
Oh,
he was his little buddy, basically. So, you know, what was happening to him would also concern Arne. He'd be like, I don't want him, you know, hurt. But he was possessed, David was. So he would growl, he would hiss, he would curse, he would speak in other fucking voices and languages. He'd recite Bible verses that he shouldn't know and, like, fucking passages from, like, weird old books that he shouldn't know. He would get unexplained bruises and scratches, so he was under physical attack also. Like, can you imagine just be sitting there and all of a sudden, like, your arm is just bruised for no reason whatsoever? Just something inside of you did it.
That's scary.
Yeah, and the church wouldn't authorize an exorcism, so the Glitzels actually did call the Warrens. In this case, they were invited.
Finally.
They were invited in your case too, weren't they?
Yeah.
So, it's 2 out of 3. We're good.
That's true.
But, so then the Warrens and the Glitzels, they both had multiple priests working on their behalf, trying to plead with the church, basically, to approve a formal exorcism, which I don't know if that ever actually came through. I didn't write it down on whether or not it was officially approved, but they did end up doing an exorcism. So it may have just been that the situation, I don't think it was actually approved. So I almost just think that it was so bad that Ed just kind of said, fuck it.
And
like,
let's do it.
But I don't know. Don't quote me on that. I don't know if it was approved for sure. But the exorcism actually lasted a couple of days. Like, it wasn't just a few hours. It was a couple of days. And at some point during that, Arne challenged the demon or devil, whatever was inside of David, to actually leave his little buddy alone and take him instead. And, you know, supposedly people that were actually there watching it saw the demon leave David and enter Arne. Like, they claim they saw that. But, you know, basically, after that, like, it's normal for a couple of months. Like, I mean, from what I saw, because I guess maybe I just don't know how the fuck to research anymore, because y'all messed up Google, but it was several months later when Arne actually, like, called into work one day at his job at the tree service, and he went to meet Debbie at the dog kennel, you know, where Bono was there. And from what I found, it actually said also that her cousin Mary and his sister Wanda, Arnie's sister Wanda, and Debbie's cousin Mary went with him. And Bono actually brought them all to lunch at a local bar and was drinking heavily, because it almost makes it seem like he was an alcoholic and really liked to drink. It says in 3 hours between him and Arne, they had 13 to 15 glasses of wine.
Oh,
so, like, that's actually...
That's a good amount.
Right. Eventually, they end up going back to the kennel and, like, his apartment above that, and Debbie and the girls, they're gonna go get a pizza, but Debbie ends up turning around, and, like, they all end up going back. She has a weird feeling, like, she just felt like it was tense there, so she just wanted to go and check. And they end up going upstairs to Bono's apartment above the kennel, and he seems agitated, like, he's hitting his hand, and I forgot what else they said he was doing. Basically, like, he was agitated, so Debbie was urging everyone to go back downstairs or go outside, like, get out of the room, basically. Bono ends up grabbing Mary. I don't remember if that's the cousin or... I think that's the cousin. So her cousin Mary, and, you know, to get her not to leave. Like, no, you're not leaving.
Yeah.
And Debbie goes to, like, try to free her, and he does let her go, but then Arne comes back in. And Debbie's standing between Arne and Bono, and, you know, basically trying to mediate. Meanwhile, Arnie's sister is trying to pull him back because, you know, he's growling like an animal. Literally, that's what she said. Like, he's growling like an animal.
Oh, dang.
And then he grabs his 5-inch pocket knife, Arne does, and repeatedly stabs Bono, who ends up dying a couple hours later. And he said after he did that, Arne looked like he was in a trance and just walked straight into the woods. And he supposedly had no memory of what happened and wasn't found until, like, a couple hours later. So, yeah, so the commercial does lie to you. He doesn't actually get found in the street. But that's a movie, so.
Right.
But he ends up arrested, and he tries to plead not guilty due to demonic possession. The Connecticut Superior Court judge refused the possession defense. And he said it was impossible to prove, so there's no they were going to allow it. And he ended up going for, I think it was a self-defense instead. Well, he ends up convicted of, I think it was first-degree manslaughter in November of 1981. And he's sentenced to 10 to 20 years, but he does get released after 5 years because he was an exemplary inmate. When he was in prison, he married Debbie, which I wonder, does that make her a hypersophiliac? If you've seen episode 3, had to throw it out there.
Right.
But he married his girlfriend Debbie, / David's sister. He got a high school degree and other educational certificates, and he took college courses. And just a couple of other little notes I have are just his lawyer, even though he was basically a skeptic, he had no interest in the supernatural. He believed that there were wounds made on Bono that couldn't have been made by a human, and for that reason, he believed Arne. And then, but, counterpoint, David's brother, I think his name was Carl, he claims that his issues were due to, mental illnesses and learning disabilities, and that there wasn't actually a demonic possession, and that it's all a hoax. But, of course, Debbie and Arne always stick to the possession and say that that was true.
Well, I mean, so we can kind of say this a little bit. I do believe that if it was a disability, or what the brother was stating, wouldn't he have shown any signs of that in jail? And I don't think he would have been released early.
No, he's saying that the probably should have clarified.
Right.
David Glitzel, the little boy who was possessed first.
Okay.
He's basically saying he was never possessed,
Oh.
which in turn would also mean that Arne was never possessed, because if the ghost never left the little boy,
right,
wouldn't have gone into Arne. But
I thought he was saying that
no,
Arne had all these mental problems and stuff.
No, he was basically trying to say that the Laurens were all a hoax, and it was all a hoax made for money. But again, I don't think I had it written down, but I don't think they made any money off this either. If they did, it was off someone else's books.
When I was gonna say that, I did look into that, and I don't believe that in the first one either. There was I think the only real big amount of money that could have been given out was maybe to one of the daughters that wrote a book. There is a book written about the first one.
There's many books about all of them, I'm sure.
Right, but I don't believe that there is. I don't believe that the movie gave any of them a money. Like you were saying. So
a lot of these people are dead. There's no way they're making these movies now. Just what? For what reason? You can't say it's monetary when they waited until they were dead to make the movies.
Right.
That doesn't make sense.
Well, I can't believe that. We did it.
Yeah.
We actually, not even gonna lie, we didn't think we were gonna be able to get through this whole podcast, right? But
I just had the follow-up, which was a follow-up on the Conjuring 3, which is a couple of questions, which was basically, is the storyline similar, which I think we already covered. It pretty much, like I said, a lot of the Ed and Lorraine shit is exaggerated, but if you look at the movies without them in it, if you can mentally take them out, then you basically do have the true
whole
facts.
story, right?
Not that I want you to take them out, because some of that stuff is legit also.
Right, because they were really there and doing,
in this one, they did try to help Arne.
Yeah.
I didn't have it written down. I don't think I mentioned it. But when he was arrested, Lorraine and Ed did actually try to make a case for him. They were trying to help him with the demonic possession.
Yeah, they were going to try to help him.
So, which...
claim that he, show that it was true and that he really was.
Which that is something they did in the movie, too. So they do stick pretty close to that, I would say.
Right.
Just obviously, the things that you think are probably just Hollywood probably are.
Yeah.
Unless it's weird body twisting shit, because that actually did happen.
Yeah.
Bodies do get contorted during possession.
Yes, they do.
Exorcism. I wanted to make sure David's background was explained in the movie, which that does get explained. You get to hear all that.
Mm-hmm.
And then I just had our overall rating and what we believe. If we believe it was possession, psychotic break, or opportunity. Is Arne guilty?
I would totally say that, rating-wise, loved it. Thought it was a 10. Really good. Honestly, I really thought that he was going to be let off. I was actually pretty shocked to find out that he got sentenced and that he went to jail for it. But yeah, I definitely do believe that it was a haunting and that something's...
I'm with you, honestly.
something happened.
I mean, like I said, I've had my own ghost experiences, so I maybe I'm just biased. Maybe I want to believe in hauntings because I don't. It's just kind of weird. He was an exemplary guy beforehand, apparently exemplary after.
That's how I
after
feel.
being arrested.
That's why I want you to make that comment.
But then
earlier.
again, how do you like? I don't know because maybe it's really. I find it weird that the guy was his landlord and also his girlfriend's boss.
Yeah, there could have been a little bit
Like,
of a... I can see that, but...
So, like, I think that's why I put crime of opportunity, because I could see it being like, okay, maybe landlord didn't want girlfriend staying at the house, or, like, vice versa, so you
Right.
killed them
Yeah.
instead of fucking facing your problems. Or, like, I could see a psychotic break, because a lot of people do shit one time because they have a mental break, and then they're good.
I mean, I could see it being a
But-
psychotic break, too. I could either see it being
I think because of the exorcism, though, like,
Right.
the fact of David Blitzel, the fact that he was there, like, this is basically, he knew this was going to be his brother, too.
Right.
And I think for that reason, like, I want to believe it's possession.
Yeah.
I just think it was a good movie overall. I don't know if I'd give it a 10. Maybe an 8. I don't know. But I also researched shit before I did the movie, so maybe that was my fault.
Alright, I went into it blind. I just wrote the synopsis.
Right? It's interesting, because now we have different things.
Right.
But anyway, we have a song of the week for you.
Mhm.
Thought it would fit in with the Conjuring theme. It's called The Howling by Within Temptation. It's a little bit more of a heavier rock kind of song. I wouldn't really say it's metal, but I would say it's approaching it. So I'll make that video for you. I'll just keep going because I'm just a nerd that enjoys it. So even if you don't watch it, watch it. But stay tuned for next week. Don't forget to comment, subscribe.
Do all that fun stuff down below, like I said. We love you all, and thank you for watching another great episode of Tainted Warriors.
Hey.
Bye.